deliberate and act on municipal election precinct boards, appointments, proposed compensation. Ms. Tricia, you want to address that?
So as you can see, each precinct will have a presiding judge, 2 clerks, and a translator. And this is the proposed compensation. We haven't changed it in quite a few years. They will be required to attend an election school that'll take place this Thursday at the Colfax County Courthouse. And if I'm correct, there will be some people from the election services to go over the new machines that we'll be using.
Okay.
And all of these people that I've chosen, they're pretty familiar with the election process, so they've worked elections before.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve municipal election precinct board appointments and proposed compensation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the municipal election precinct board appointments and proposed compensation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On volunteer fire assistant equipment grant agreement between the New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department in the city of Raton. Chief?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commission members. Approximately 3 or 4 months ago, we applied for a grant, which was for volunteer departments and smaller cities, which we did qualify for. The focus of the grant was to provide the firefighters with new turnouts and wildland fighting equipment, gloves, helmets, jackets, things like that. We did qualify for it, and we were awarded a grant. There's a 80-20 investment that we have to put into it. We can cover that through our funds that we have earned by putting out wildland fires. So there'll be no additional expense to the general fund. And we are hoping you will approve this grant, and we'll go ahead and get it, and we'll have the equipment ready for this coming wildland season.
Okay, and so the equipment is for our fire department?
Ours only, yes.
Ours, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, you said it's an 80-20 grant?
I think
If
it's-
memory serves
I
right,
think it's 75-25.
even, is it?
Okay, because
Maybe
I'm
not.
looking at the numbers here, and it looks like the local match is more like 10%.
Even better.
That's, yeah, even better.
That could be, yeah.
Okay, all right. Madam Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve or accept the grant application.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to approve the volunteer fire assistance equipment grant agreement between the New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department and the city of Raton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion granted.
Thank
Del-
you.
You're welcome. Deliberate and act on Resolution 2016-07, second quarter 2015 financial report.
Mayor and Commission, in your packet this evening is the second quarter financial report. And this is for our finances as of December 31st, 2015. You will see that in the general fund summary as of December 31st, we had a general fund ending cash balance of $937,150, and then less our required reserve and the balance in our street improvement GRT, it was available cash of $507,282.32. In my notes below, we did discuss this at the last meeting when I gave the November report, that we did find our decline in the gross receipts was due to an error that Tax and Revenue has acknowledged, that there was an error in their system, and so their programmers are fixing that. It does not appear on the tax GRT report in your packet this evening, but it should appear on next month's report.
Do you have a figure on that?
No, they didn't communicate any specifics with us.
Yeah, because they thought they'd have it by, we should have had it by the 15th.
Mayor, if
didn't
I could,
happen.
yeah, if I could intervene there, this is in regard to the hold harmless distribution
Right.
specifically. And I had talked to Bill Fulgenetti at Municipal League, and about the same time that the November distribution, which we just got now, was being completed, Bill had a meeting with Tax and Rev and the Cabinet Secretary on this matter and some other matters, but he said that they had acknowledged there was an error. It did not show up in this distribution. Bill said he's pretty confident that it will be fixed by next month. Next month, February 15th or so, will be the December distribution. They should have it corrected. We would expect to receive back payment for whatever it is that's due. And Bill had told us that, yes, Tax and Rev had acknowledged that there was an error actually applying to all Colfax County municipalities. So it's not just Raton. It applied for whatever reason to all of Colfax County. We really couldn't see that it applied anywhere outside of Colfax County, but we're anticipating that it'll be corrected. And we'll wait till February 15th, report back to you, and we should get caught up.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I might add something to this. Michael Ann, our treasurer, needs to get good kudos for this because she dug down and found out how come our gross receipts were so low, and also found out that they weren't being distributed to the rest of the cities in the county. So, thank you very much for that.
Well, I think when we look at these reports month after month, consistently they kind of look the same. And so starting in September, all of a sudden the report just didn't look right. And so I think Raton, of course, is the largest of the communities in Colfax County. So we were going to see, the biggest discrepancy. I don't think it was quite as evident to the smaller communities. But over the last couple months.
So it concerns September, October, and November?
Concerns every month
And
in the
just-
current fiscal year.
Well, the hold harmless supposedly went into effect July 1st. So the first check that we got reflecting July business activity was the September check.
Right, it's 2 months.
Yeah, so, I am disappointed that we have to wait another month to hopefully make sure that it's corrected, but as noted, we will continue to communicate with them until it is resolved. And so we are thankful to Bill Fulgenetti for actually meeting with them on our behalf.
Intervening
So.
on our behalf. Okay. Is the money that we are collecting to reduce the debt on the swimming pool being held in the general fund, is it part of this 937,000?
No, those monies are maintained in a separate bank account, which is your Fund 302.
Which is called what?
It's under your capital project funds.
Capital
There's
project
a
funds.
dedicated GRT fund, and it would be the Fund 302 swimming pool.
Okay.
In the past, we had it as the Fund 309. The 302 was actually used during the actual construction of the facility, but when we recently switched bank accounts and enacted the new 0.25% with this budget year, we decided to keep it in a separate bank account.
Okay.
And so Fund 302 is the separate bank account
All right,
for
so
that.
That's good to know that it's not there in that general fund.
And so any balance of funds that were in the 309 have been transferred to the 302, and you'll see that Fund 309 is zero now. So that way we can track all of those funds separately and not have them commingled with any other funds.
Okay.
Also, we did receive part of the first half of the property taxes in December. That check was just a little under 100,000. We did receive a check today, and it was for about 212,000. So that was the remainder that we were waiting on for the first half. So the second half of the property taxes will be due in May. Also, you'll just see as of December 31st, the city was operating within budget at 47.68% in the general fund. Was there any other questions regarding our report? This will be due to DFA by the end of the week, so we'll have the second quarter report in on time.
I would just like to reiterate what Commissioner Chavez said, that, thanks to our city treasurer for being very diligent. The data was there, but you really had to drill down to find that, and this could have gone on for a long time. And Michael Ann did drill down, found that. We contacted Tax and Revenue. This is pretty early in the process that, and they commented that Raton had really done their homework in approaching Tax and Rev, and they really didn't have an argument. They just had to admit that they had a mistake, and
Yep.
so that's tough to get out of Tax and Rev. But thanks to Michael Ann.
Anyway, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll move that we approve the second quarter financial report resolution 2016-07.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2016-07, second quarter 2015 financial reports. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on resolution 2016-08, approving NMFA debt service additional payment for Aquatic Center 2007 loan. Go ahead, Michael.
Mayor and Commission, in your packet is a resolution that we've drafted that would address making an additional debt payment to NMFA on the 2007 Aquatic Center loan. And we've talked about this several times. This particular note is callable, and we are eligible to make an additional principal payment with a required 45-day notice to NMFA. So we thought we would get that process started now. Typically, our next debt payment would be due May 1st. And so we discussed this at the last two meetings of the Financial Advisory Committee Board meeting. And so I've projected what I think the ending cash balance will be as of June 30th. We won't have the revenues for the month of May and June to include in this payment because we'll be making the payment in April. So we've kind of worked the math backwards, and we feel comfortable that we would be able to make an additional payment of $150,000 and leave about $10,000 in the account as a reserve, which would also probably give us a little bit of a cushion in case there was any sort of a shortfall the last 2 months of the fiscal year in our GRT. So, it is an estimate, but I think based on what we've projected and kind of where we're at as of December 31st, we could do $150,000. And then, of course, this would be something that would need to be reviewed annually, and maybe we would just do it every year in January, early February.
Sounds good. Are there any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2016-08, the additional debt payment on the New Mexico, the Aquatic Center.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and 2 seconds, to approve resolution 2016-08, approving the additional payment for the Aquatic Center loan 2007. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on resolution 2016-08, budget adjustment number 5, fiscal year 16. Michael Ann?
Mayor and Commission, in your packet is a resolution. This is budget adjustment number 5. The 2 items that you just approved are included in this adjustment, and that would be the $150,000, and then also the equipment grant for the fire department, which would include the required matching funds as well that would be coming from the forestry funds. In addition, we have municipal court. We got an actual figure of what the reimbursement is that they're eligible for this year. So we originally budgeted it as $5,000. So we're going to take the additional revenue eligible to them for reimbursement and increase their training and travel so that the court clerk can attend additional Court Clerk Association board meetings. Also, the library is going to be doing some minor electrical upgrades, and we would be doing an adjustment of $5,000 from the building fund to cover that. We don't think it'll be quite that much. I did talk to her today. They're also going to be fixing the toilet upstairs, so that'll be a couple $100 as well. So there should be plenty of funds there to address those two issues. And then the additional adjustments would be related to First Street paving project, and just trying to close out the final invoices on that particular project. And I think that would cover all of the adjustments. If there's no questions, I would recommend approval of budget adjustment number 5.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve budget adjustment number 5 for fiscal year 16. Are there any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on a lease agreement between the City of Raton and the National Guard of Raton Armory Facility. City Manager?
Mayor and Commission, sometime back, I got a phone call from General Griego. He's the Deputy Adjutant General for New Mexico National Guard, and he had explained to me that the National Guard had vacated the Raton Readiness Center, or the Raton Armory, that's located at Raton Municipal Airport. And he had stepped through their plan, and they had performed, a consultant had done a study for them and recommended some consolidation, and actually they were going to build a couple of new facilities. But the bottom line is they were consolidating and closing the Raton Center. We were disappointed to hear that, but the general did offer that that's happened in other communities, and there was a precedent for National Guard to consider donation of the building back to the municipality for some use that the municipality may have. So we did request that at the last meeting. You recall the commission did pass a resolution for that request. I have had a number of conversations with various people in National Guard organization over several months, and it did result in this lease agreement. Now, let me state that the National Guard has stated its intention to donate the building to the City of Raton at no cost. However, there are a couple of steps that they would take before they do that, and that would take a little time. So in the interim, they have offered this lease agreement at which they would lease it to the City of Raton for their use at no cost, other than the city would pay utilities if there is a utility cost to go with the building. So the steps in them donating the building to Raton, as I understand it, there is an indoor rifle range or a shooting range in the building, and there is a concern of lead contamination. The National Guard has offered to remediate that contamination, clean that room up, but they would only do that prior to donating it to the city. So their plan is to complete that. They're doing the analysis now, get their consultant or their contractor out, remediate the lead contamination, and the State Armory Board is the body that takes action on either the lease or the donation. So they meet every quarter. They would meet 3 months from now, and hopefully that lead remediation is completed, and they would vote at that time to turn the building back to the city. Now, I would remind everyone that the building was built in the early 1980s, and the city offered the site, which is on city property at the municipal airport owned by the City of Raton. The funding source for the project at the time would not pay for real estate, so the building was constructed on property owned by the City of Raton, and there was a long-term lease which said that we would lease that property to the National Guard for $1 per year for 53 years for the purpose of operating an armory. So obviously they're not going to operate an armory in the future, and it's sitting on Raton property. We have a situation where either the National Guard simply has a vacant building sitting on the property, or we try to have some measure of control over the building and use it as an asset and do something with it. So we have explained to the National Guard that we would like to receive it, the donation ultimately, but the lease right now, and try to use that as an economic development asset. So that's what we'll be doing with the building, is to try to promote that use for economic development. As you know, Raton has an exceptional general aviation airport. We've invested in extension of our main runway 220 to around 8,000 feet. Typically, a general aviation airport in this area might have a runway of about 5,000 feet. We have rehabbed that runway. We are working on a rehabilitation of the Alpha taxiway currently, and so in general our airport is in great shape, and we see that as a tool that we could use in economic development, and we think the National Guard building will be an additional tool that we can use as part of our strategy for economic development. I did attend a meeting of the State Armory Board this morning in Santa Fe. They did vote on the lease agreement that you have in front of you, and they approved the lease agreement. So they're done for their part, and I think the only issue with the lease agreement is they listed the city manager as the signatory for the lessee. I had asked them to change that to the mayor, but in the final version they didn't make that change. So if you would consider the lease in front of you, it is a lease for 1 year at no cost. We make no payment to the National Guard for the building. It allows us to use the building, and if you would consider that, and my recommendation is you do approve the lease agreement. If you could include as a part of that motion, authorize the signature of the city manager on the lease agreement.
Mayor, yeah. She's quick.
I'll second.
Okay, we have two motions and a second to approve resolution 2016-10. No, it isn't. It's the lease agreement between the City of Raton and the National Guard for Raton Armory Facility with the approval of the city manager's signature. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
One question, as soon as this lease takes effect, will they be giving the keys and everything over to the city?
We would anticipate meeting them out there in the next, we'll set up a meeting in the next probably couple of weeks, and affecting some kind of transfer. We'll have to ask how we transfer the utilities and some things like that. So we'll be making those final arrangements, get the keys and have access to everything there. But Commissioner, I would tell you that I have inspected the building, as a number of you have. The building really is in great shape. I had not been in the building prior to our conversations here. I was really impressed by the condition of the building. The National Guard has really kept it in great condition. So it's not one of these situations where we need to walk in and do a lot of work to the building.
$200,000 worth of repairs, yeah.
As far as we know, it's ready to go with really no funding needs on our part. So
Okay.
And they have Mr. Chavez's lunch there in the Beanie Weenies.
that's
I
right.
found
They have
a-
the case of Beanie Weenie there.
I was privy, I walked around and found a case of Beanie Weenies, and so I made these guys eat lunch with me, with a can of Beanie Weenies.
Oh, okay. Field rations.
Oh, yeah.
Deliberate and act on Resolution 2016-10, application for Municipal Arterial Program, MAP, fiscal year 2016-2017. Mr. Berry?
Mayor and Commission, we did receive a letter from the Mexico Department of Transportation, as we do typically at this time every year, and they notified us that they will be accepting applications for the municipal arterial program. And then you'll see on the on item I, the following item, we've also received a separate letter that said they will be receiving applications for the cooperative agreement program. Two different applications, two programs under their local government road fund program. This is an important program to Raton. Much of the work that we've done during 15, we received funds through both of these programs. Our First Street resurfacing project, our Tiger Drive work, Pecos Galisteo, those all receive funding under these DOT programs. It's a good program. They typically will fund 75% of a project, and we will commit to matching that with 25%. We get that 25% from the gasoline tax. We do have the funds available to apply for those. You see some figures that we put in the resolution, and in regard to the municipal arterial program, we plan on asking for $300,000, and our required match 25% then would be $75,000. That doesn't mean that we'll get $300,000. The MAP application is considered by the State Transportation Board, and they could award any number that they want. And so, as we've talked about, we did focus on Tiger Drive last year. We have funds to complete Tiger Drive early this summer. We plan on doing that as soon as school is released, so we should be covered on that. So our recommendation to the commission is let's get back to Hospital Drive, and let's do the rehabilitation work on Hospital Drive. Since we're not sure of the dollars yet, we're going to recommend to the commission that we apply for the $300,000, and then we design a project around an actual award, if there is an award. So that's our recommendation to the commission, is that we specify Hospital Drive as our project for this MAP application.
Okay, and the MAP funds that are still outstanding that we haven't used, is that the rest of Tiger Drive?
You know, we have closed out MAP. We do not have any outstanding MAP
Funds.
grant. We have closed out. We do have a cooperative agreement that was awarded late last year. So we have one grant in hand, and that will go to the remainder of Tiger Drive.
Okay, but that's a co-op.
That is a co-op
Okay.
grant, yes.
All right, thank you.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2016-10, application for the municipal arterial program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application for the Municipal Arterial Program, MAP, for the fiscal year 2016-2017, with the designation at this time for Hospital Drive.
Madam Mayor, since he just explained Resolution 2016-10 along with that one, or 2016-11, I mean, can we just approve that one? Or do you have to read it out?
Let's do them separately since we're this far down the road. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on Resolution 2016-11, intention of matching funds for the co-op agreement program fiscal year 2016-2017. Mr. Berry?
And Mayor, if I could, I would just add that this grant application is really just considered at the district level. It really doesn't, it's typically awarded for various street improvements. So we have not specified the detail like we did on the MAP application, but what I would anticipate is that we make an application for street resurfacing. In the meantime, I will get you an evaluation of what we would propose during the 2016 construction season, and we'll talk about where the priorities are. But we are in this resolution asking for a total project award of $100,000 for resurfacing of city streets, $75,000 DOT, $25,000 City of Raton, in which again we would go back to the gasoline tax.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Berry?
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 2016-11, the co-op
Second.
agreement.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2016-11, intention of matching funds for the co-op agreement program fiscal year 2016-2017. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Report.
Mayor and Commission, let me start by giving you an update quickly on what city crews have been working on. In Public Works, as we have talked about, we try to take our parks crew and spread them around and use them in different places. So we have utilized them in several different capacities. We've made an effort on keeping up with the pothole patching, and we had a couple of snowstorms there where these potholes kind of show up out of nowhere. We have some now. We have a little good weather hopefully coming up, and so we'll continue to do that. But we have made an effort at throughout the city, really keeping up with the pothole patching. We've used some parks crews in doing that. Our public works crew has worked on a section of Roundhouse Road, and that would be the section of road that is gravelled and south of Memorial Lane, between Memorial Lane and Grant Avenue. The plan there is that we would do improvements on that section of road by dividing that up into 4 sections, 4 separate projects. And what they've done so far is they used millings and crushed concrete to build a base course in the first section. We would anticipate doing that when we get time on the next section. That'll be that part crossing the stream there. But we would do this over 4 sections, and then as we get done with that work, let the traffic drive on that. Let that traffic help us get consolidation and compaction, and ultimately come back and surface that with an asphalt surface. So they did complete the first section. It's open for traffic again. We'll look for an opportunity to work on the next section, but we plan on doing that over some time. It's really fill-in work as we work around other things that we're doing. So the entire crew worked on that for a little more than a week. We spread it out actually over a couple of weeks. We've had a crew working on the community kitchen at the convention center. We did a review of the needs there. What our crew is working on is painting walls, ceilings, repairs on those. They removed some cabinets that were really not functional, and right now they're replacing the tile floor in that kitchen. We'll move from that into replacing some of the the plumbing components, the fixtures, making some storage improvements, adding some prep tables, lockers, and working on counter surfaces. But the goal is to really make this a viable community kitchen. Commissioner Schuster has been very active in working with the group to try to get several people involved in the community kitchen with the goal of trying to build some local business that would be based on the community kitchen. I think that the commissioner did see an example of some local people that started producing and marketing salsa that came from a family recipe, and has had some significant success with that. So it can be done, and I think we've got a dedicated group working on that. Our public works has also been working on graveling alleys. We used the crushed concrete that we had crushed up a year and a half ago or so. We have some bad alleys, and we're trying to get to some of the worst of them. So that's good weather good work to do in the cold weather. Been working on that. They've been working on some signage and traffic control. We've been trying to run the street sweeper. Street sweeper has been one of those pieces of equipment that spends some time in the shop, and then we go run it, and then it immediately heads back to the shop, and it's a challenge. But we have laid quite a bit of the snow control, the red cinders out there, especially downtown. We know that does not give us a favorable look downtown, so we've been running that. We're going to look for our opportunity to really wash a couple of blocks, at least the center median, to improve the look of the downtown when we can, weather allowing. In regard to police and fire, I would say that we have got several openings in both departments. We're looking for some qualified officers, and that could, those openings we could consider entry-level officers. So I'd tell anybody that might be interested, talk to the chiefs there. The ISO inspection has been delayed. I believe, Chief, we're talking about April now on the ISO inspection. Okay, we were planning on getting into that this month, but that did not come off. There have been curb and gutter and sidewalk improvements at the Troy station through the fire department. They've also been doing lighting and electrical improvements. Chief Matthews has been working on potential funding through FEMA mitigation, and we want to meet with some FEMA people, look at potential funding, and there's really a laundry list of where we might utilize that funding, but cleanup of some dilapidated properties may be one possibility. We'll report back to you on that as we meet with FEMA and find out requirements on it. But when you're dealing with federal funding, there are hoops to jump through, so we'll find out what those are. In recreation, we do have the abbreviated schedule for the aquatic center, but Jared is helping with the youth basketball to try to continue that program. They'll offer help. That has been done before through various organizations, but we'll lend a hand on that. At the library, Thala is talking about new server and IT equipment. In regard to the Shooter Theater, I'm still working on that security agreement, and we hope to bring it to the commission at our next meeting. And we had heard the report from Wade Jackson at the last commission meeting, and we want to get that buttoned up for you at the next meeting. Solid Waste has put a lot of effort into trying to get around town and clean up dumping in the alleys, illegal dumping, I would add. And we did bring that up to the citizen groups at the Crime Stopper and the Neighborhood Watch program to ask for their help when we have illegal dumping, or we have things like graffiti tagging. If we have people notifying us and keeping an eye on that, it will sure help maybe curb those problems, those issues. And we have had some incidents of graffiti. The crew has been very dedicated about getting out there and trying to cover that up as soon as they can. We try to follow a 24-hour rule that we'll have that covered up. Mostly we do, we're able to make that, not all the time, but sometimes they just grab whatever paint they have and get out there, and it's maybe not exactly the right color, but the goal is to get that covered up. The clerk's office, as you talked to Tricia, they're preparing for the municipal election, and we think our preparations are good and they're in order. I did participate in a progress meeting with RPS personnel and their consultants and Smith Power in regard to the generation project. That's an important project for Raton, and as you remember, we do have insurance proceeds. Part of the insurance agreement is that money would be spent on generation. That's going forward, and my best guess is right now about the beginning of 2017, that generation ought to be operational and backing us up. So we're happy about that. The legislature is in session currently. There are 2 dates I would remind the commission of. Municipal Day will be held on January 29th. I believe they have a reception the night before. That's at La Fonda. I've got a commitment here in town, so I will not be able to attend. I know a couple of commissioners have prepared to go. I think our city treasurer and utility director will be there as well. Try to bring back the legislative report. Colfax County reception will be scheduled February 1st. I will attend that. I'll try to get down earlier in the day. We're trying to set up some meetings with Cabinet Secretary for the Mexico Environment Department and possibly the Dam Safety Bureau in regard to some of the projects with our filter plant, our wastewater treatment plant, and Lake Maloya Dam. So me and Mr. Campbell will try to make those arrangements and meet on the 1st or 2nd. I have gone to a couple of neighborhood watch organizational meetings. There was one held here last night for the area north of I-25. Those are really good because we have a lot of citizens getting involved, and what I've seen from those is a real commitment to that involvement. So that's something we've really encouraged. It seems to be going very well. A lot of interest from various neighborhoods. A good turnout for all of those meetings, and of course, Crime Stoppers as well. They're getting organized, seating their board. There's been great support financially for the Crime Stoppers, so I think that's really going to make a difference in Raton. The north area is going to meet again February 29th here, and then on March 28th there is a citywide neighborhood watch meeting. We'll schedule that for the convention center, and specifically they've arranged to talk about security measures that homeowners might there'd be some technical assistance for homeowners, because like me, I'm not real literate with what systems are available out there for surveillance or some of these security systems. So they'll have experts there at that March 28th meeting.
28th or 29th?
I'll find out, and I have the 28th written down, but let me verify that, and I'll notify you before we get there. And then lastly, I would tell you that I've been working on an RFP, a request for proposals for professional services related to our IT services here. It's been a while since we've done that. We've got a couple other contracts and that we'll be reviewing and trying to bring to the commission, but we need to get on this IT first. So we hope to get that to you also in March. That's all I have, Mayor.
We postponed, well, you addressed the one on the application for the security service at the Schuler, but a couple of months back, I don't believe it came back up on the agenda, but I may be wrong, was a contract with Gordon Environmental. And I don't think that's come back onto the agenda, so I just wanted to call it to your attention. Am I correct?
Well, where we're at is we have to get, we do have an approved task order in place for Gordon for landfill reclamation work. We would work with them as far as taking bids on the contractor work. Mm-hmm. And of course, we need to move along with that as quickly as we can. So we're putting an effort on that. But what we don't have currently in place is a contract for the groundwater monitoring, and that's something that we're going to have to make a decision on.
Okay, fine. As long as we don't forget it.
Mr. Barry, I just wanted to know about, I have that March 28th down for that.
28th.
Watch meeting as well.
And I have one other thing. I'm going to look to Commissioner Chavez for help on the reports in all things ice fishing. Commissioner Chavez, if you could help me out with ice fishing.
Members of the board and citizens, this year was the 10th annual Isapalooza fishing tournament up at Lake Maloya and Sugarweed, and it actually started 10 years ago. Last year I made a trip up there and I saw what was very similar to looking at Grumpy Old Men movie. There was all these people on the ice and music and drinking and cussing and raising all kinds of cane. So this year we attempted to give them a t-shirt, welcome them to Raton. Last year there was 32. This year there were 76 fishermen here, and they're from all over the United States. And so Mr. Barry and myself went up, and Mr. Barry welcomed them as a city manager, and it was a good sight to see. I won't go into the specifics of some of it, but if some of you would like to see, I would show you. He gave a fine performance up there and welcomed them to us. They gave t-shirts out to us, and they rented 76 rooms in Raton for 3 days.
Okay.
Cool.
And they pledged at that time, since Mr. Barry talked to them, they pledged that they would be back next year and continue to do this. From here, they go to San Diego and they do the Crabapalooza. The whole same bunch goes to San Diego and they trap crab and lobster, and they have a crab fest for 3 days. And so we welcome them back. And next year, I would like to. We talked about it before and we didn't get it done. Is to get them a T-shirt, welcome them to the city of Raton. and they are a fine bunch. The other thing is, I was contacted by New Mexico True, and they asked me would I take Michael Newman ice fishing up at the lake, and they wanted to run a thing on it. So what they did is they asked me could I make it interesting. So Michael Newman and myself challenged the city manager and the water manager to a fishing contest up there, and they showed up, and we loaded up out in front here. It was probably 85 degrees out front when we got here. As soon as we crossed the line into the park, it was a blizzard. And so we fished for about 2 hours, and the contest was to entail that myself and Michael Newman, the host of New Mexico True, the losers would have to buy dinner in town. And lucky for us, the first fish caught of the day was, and I didn't know he was that much of a good of a fisherman, was Mr. Berry, and it was probably about that big. The first fish of the day that he caught, and so they documented it, and then, but as it turned out, we won, and the two managers were forced to buy us dinner, and they filmed all this at one of our local restaurants at the Casa de Limos restaurant, and so that'll be shown 4 times during the year, and it's going to really be a big plug for the New Mexico state parks up here.
Great.
And for Raton.
Great.
If anybody wants me to show you the performance, Mr. Berry, at your convenience, I'll show you. It's quite entertaining. That's all I have.
Okay. I recommend that we have a 5-minute health break, and then we'll come back and go into closed executive session. That's all right with everyone.